He is Coach Corey Parker, defensive backs coach for Brett Bielema's Illinois program. I am John Brice of FootballScoop.com. This is the Our Coaching Network podcast. I say it every time. I'm going to continue to say it, especially with our guest today. We are crushing it in 2025. Corey Parker, you're the latest big part of that. Thanks for joining us on the Our Coaching Network podcast.
Really excited to be here, man. I've been watching this stuff for a long time, and just, you can learn ball. You can just see guys' journey through what they're talking about, and just the fact that I got an opportunity to talk with you guys today is completely awesome.
Well, your energy has lifted me up. We're recording this on a Monday. We're not quite sure what day it will publish, but you're kicking me out of my Mondays, and you're giving me some good juice here. So I appreciate it. I imagine this energy and this juice is a part of your persona as a coach. What do you credit that to? How do you have this kind of energy on a day in, day out basis?
Oh man, the three F's, right? And people say it all the time, but it's truly my standard, my three pillars, right? My faith, right? My faith in God and everything that means to me. Just gives me the juice and the energy to go out and take every single day as if I'm not having a bad day. You want to know why? Because I woke up on the side of the breathing. I woke up on the side of the living. So I got a reason to be excited, right? And so I look at that piece, right? And the second piece, my family, right? My loving wife, Autumn, she's always behind my back and just, pushing me, encouraging me, or just listening to me sometimes. I want to just vent and talk. My three beautiful kids, Corey Jr., Avery, and Ashlyn, they're always pushing me because they want to see dad to be their best, because I tell them every day when they leave out for school in the morning, go be the best, right? And so lastly, football, right? This crazy game has been able to get me out the neighborhoods of Detroit, right? Because I could tackle somebody. Think about how simple that is. Because I could tackle someone, it's able to get me out of the hood. So, man, them three pillars right there has really changed my life. So I feel nothing better to give the juice and the energy to this game, to coaching and to players the same way it has truly changed my life.
And you lead me right into my next question. You referenced it. You're from Detroit. It's listed as your hometown. You played at Eastern Michigan, multi-year letter winner there. Had a great career there. How much do you thrive on giving back, especially to kids in the Midwest, because that's where your roots are?
Yeah, I thrive in that piece. Obviously, the career I had at Eastern Michigan was awesome, but somebody had to give to me, right? A guy named Tony Oten, who's the defensive backs coach now with the dang Tennessee Titans, right? That man gave to me, right? Bob Diaco gave to me, right? Guys at Eastern Michigan gave me a fair shot, right? Jeff Jenick gave to me, gave me a fair shot to try and make my life great. Right. And so when I look at those three men and how they went about coaching me, and it wasn't always great days, right? We lost a lot of games at Eastern Michigan, but it was their approach of just coaching you through those bad times and telling you, hey, there's a light at the end of this tunnel. It's called life. You just got to keep going, keep grinding. And so I try and give that to kids from the Midwest, from Metro Detroit, from Ohio, from Illinois, wherever I'm at. I've got some coaches I've got relationships with, because as a high school coach, you build relationships with people all over the country going to Glacier clinics, going to AFCA clinics. You don't know the college coaches, you know the high school coaches, right? And so when you're a high school coach, you're part of a scheme, a system. Or at least I was crazy enough to do that, right? I became the National Single Wing Coach Association. I became the president of that coach association, right? Coach Rick Darlington is one of the guys in that dang on association. His son is a tight ends coach coaching college football, but he's put out great players at dang on Apopka High School. But it's several other coaches in that Wildcat, in that single wing coaches community all over the country. So I feel as a coach, like I can go, not just in the Midwest, I can go anywhere and develop a relationship with a kid that his coach may be a part of that single wing community, right? I may not be from that community, but that coach knows who I am. He knows I started running this offense in 2010, and I've kept running it until my days as a high school football coach was over with. So it's something that I believe in, but just giving back to kids and making sure that they know where I'm from and what I'm about and why ultimately they can change their life through looking at my journey.
He is the incredibly energetic Corey Parker, defensive backs coach at Illinois. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. You just touched on it. I've tried to do my research on you. I did not know about your presidency of the Wing T Association or anything like that.
Single wing, single wing.
Single wing. That's what I meant. Single wing. I apologize. I need to get the origin story of you in the single wing and becoming president of that association. So how did that all unfold, Corey?
Well, when you're a football coach, the first thing you try and do is try and be like your high school coach. And I love him. Greg Carter, he's a legend throughout Michigan. He's a legend throughout the Midwest. Right, won dang on 12 state championships. That's second in our state, in the state of Michigan right now. But did an awesome job putting a lot of us in college football as players, and now a lot of us are coaches because of what he poured into us, right? And so when you look at trying to be like him, I tried to be like him scheme wise too. Right. And so I was a 24-year-old head coach, the youngest head coach in the state of Michigan. Right. We had just went to the state championship. I was his defensive coordinator at Inkster High School, and I had good players. Devin Gardner was my quarterback. Cam Gordon was my dang on safety. I had some players. Right. And so we went to the state championship and we lost to a great friend of mine, Coach Pete Sturzma, who's the head coach now at Hope College in Michigan, Division III school. And so I become the youngest head coach in the state of Michigan. River Rouge calls me and says, "Hey, we want you to become our head coach." And I'm like, the head coach, like River Rouge, like, man, my fiance is from there. So I call my wife and say, "Hey, we're gonna take this job. We got a head coaching job opportunity. We're gonna take the job." She said, "Where?" I said, "River Rouge." She says, "Don't take that job. We're a basketball school. We're terrible in football." So lo and behold, you know us as men, we're rebels. I go against what she says, and I still take the job. And so I go in there and I try and run Coach Carter's 10 personnel and 20 personnel system that he had learned from Rich Rodriguez and all the different guys that came in and recruit Devin Gardner. He had learned some of this stuff and he started doing it, and we had success doing it. So I do it myself in my first year at River Rouge in 2009, and I got my butt whooped. We averaged like 10 points a game. We were terrible. We were horrible, right? And so, averaging 10 points a game, running a 10 personnel, 2x2 or 20 personnel spread option system, it didn't fit my personnel and it didn't fit me. I'm a defensive guy and I'm trying to make all these fancy calls offensively to make things work. Like this isn't going to work. So the first thing I had to do, I had to find out culturally what I was going to do to change that place. Right. And so I got rid of all of the guys that want to smoke weed and gang bang and represent cliques and rap groups. They want to represent that. No, you're off my football team. So I got rid of those guys. And so from there, from 2009 until 2010, from 2021, I took that team to the dang on state playoffs and or the state championship, and put probably over 200 kids in different schools around the country. And we did it with the single wing offense. We did it by running power off tackle left and power off tackle right. Sometimes we'll bring a jet sweep series and make it look old school Wildcat with right. Darren McFadden, what those guys did. But at the end of the day, we're trying to do simple things the great way. We want to be physical, we want to be tough, and we want to play hard. And when you reduce your offense to what Pop Warner created this offense for Jim Thorpe. He had one guy. He was the ultimate triple threat. He could pass, he could punt, and he can dang on run and dang on football. So I wanted to find, if I could find 10 guys that could get their block or their assignment done, I can snap the ball to one good player. And we're gonna roll downhill for 3 yards. 3 plus 3 plus 3, that's 9, bro. Now it's 4th and 1. Let's get another 3 yards, first down. And so that's how we believed in playing, because all my bells and whistles is going to be on defense, right? I was going to be able to call some different stuff on defense to hurt you. But offensively, I got into that single wing group through just going and trying to learn at clinics. And so like the one of the godfathers of the single wing per se, a guy in Menominee, Coach Ken Hofer, right? He came and he sat down with me for lunch at a clinic, right? And he says, young man, you want to learn this offense? And I said, yes, sir. And I know this guy had ran off several state championships running this stuff. And so he says, I want to teach you, but what's your number one plan to run an offense? I said, to run off tackle a million times until I can't anymore. He says, you're my type of guy. Let's sit down and have a conversation. And so this is a young black kid from Detroit, Michigan, sitting with a dude that has that this is an old Caucasian guy, has an old Amish beard. Like what would we have in common other than ball? That's why I love ball. You can take two men from two different places in this world, put them together, and just let that thing work. And so I built a relationship with those guys at Menominee, obviously at Lansing Catholic High School. They were running the system as well. Coach Jim Ahern. And obviously you start building those relationships. Now you're going to meet Coach Rick Darlington, right? You're going to be in circles with guys. It's like a secret society per se. We're going to meet at a little small college, Division III school in the middle of nowhere in March every single year. And we're going to talk about all our different schemes and ideas and bring it together. And so that's how I ultimately became the president of that org, just by being probably the youngest guy in the clique, because a lot of those guys look like they played in leather helmets back in the day. So they're old dudes, right? I'm the youngest guy in the clique, and they're like, okay, maybe this young guy can help us, take this thing organizationally to the next level. And so those are my friends. Those are my brothers in arms. Those are my brothers in coaching. And I learned so much ball from those guys, and I still learn a lot of ball from those guys. I talk about, blocking back wedge play. Like, what is that? Nobody knows what that is. You know what I mean? But in our community, that's a thing. You know what I mean? So the spin offense, we talk about different stuff like that. And so what I ultimately learned from those guys is, to be a contrarian. You know what I mean? Football always comes back, you know what I mean, in one full circle. Is it ever going to look as crazy as single wing? Nah. But it has some of the same viewpoints of RPO, run pass option. Well, the first run pass option was actually a buck sweep running to the right while Jim Thorpe was trying to find out whether the wing back was going to be open in the flat or not. Reason he would have been open in the flat is because nobody pulled up Jim Thorpe. Well, if somebody came to come and pull him up, he threw the ball to the flat to dang on, you know what I mean, to the wing back, right? That's a RuPo pass, right? And so run pass option all came from some place. And so you just look back and you learn the history of football. You learn why it was created, how it was created, and why those men built it the way they did. You have a better appreciation for it instead of thinking that you created something, instead of thinking that you are like some type of dang on guru. Right? That this thing has been going on way before a lot of us was born and thought of. So our job, I think, as coaches is to try and take it to the next level, but also appreciate the past and where it really came from.
Yeah, a lot of the new is recycled old, right? So
Yes, sir.
you mentioned that you got into some clinicking there, or had some meetings with them in some small remote locations. Where are some of the spots that you guys would meet and just maybe spend a weekend chopping it up on talking ball and hashing out some X's and O's there? Where are some of your favorite spots that you got to meet with this crew through the years?
Well, we're very, very consistent for one spot. One spot is King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We'll meet there annually. Can't tell you guys the time and date. That is a part of
I
the
thought I
secret
was getting an
society.
invitation. I thought I was getting an invitation. Come on.
But also we will also meet in June, and June would rotate itself. So we've been here in Michigan, right? And I allowed those old dudes to get in the old Four Horsemen formation at University of Michigan Stadium before, which was awesome for some of those old dudes to do. We've been up in East Lansing, obviously because Lansing Catholic held it one year. We've been in all different parts of Virginia. From Bunker Hill, Virginia. We've been in North Carolina. We've been in different places because we were able to rotate it by way of the access that we have. This year they had it in Tennessee. I wasn't able to be there because I was at work. Right, I was really trying to help our program be great where I'm at right now. So wasn't able to make it, but I always try and check in on them guys and text them and call them, because one day one of those guys is going to call me and say, "Hey, Parker, I got a player." Right. And now that is different receiving that from a brother. It's different receiving that from a guy that's saying, "Hey, I know this guy can play for you." Or, "Parker, there's a kid in the conference that we're in. He's really, really good. You may want to take a look at him." So instead of me making a cold call and trying to get in somebody's building through recruiting, this is all through relationships. That's what recruiting is all about. So we've been some of all over the world as far as with this single wing piece, but ultimately it has gave me the ultimate multiplier to build relationships with players and coaches all over the country.
And you missed out not getting to go to the Tennessee one. That's my roots there. That's my home state. So that's why I'm going to tell you missed out a little bit there. You said something a moment ago that really resonated with me. And you said when you got to River Rouge and took over, you pretty much said you cleaned up the culture, that there were no more cliques. There wasn't any of the illicit activities. You have to be able to do that from a place of authenticity. What gave you the authenticity or the credibility in those school hallways that let those guys know, okay, coach is making these changes, but he's making these changes to benefit our lives?
Love language. I learned the kids' love language. I dealt with every single kid where they was at, not where I wanted them to be, but where they were particularly at in that current moment. So high fives at right at the door when they came in. Boys, girls, everybody, student athletes or non-student athletes, right? Going and supporting everybody's events, making sure the kids knew, hey, Coach Parker is here, and I'm not just the head football coach, I'm the dean of students. I'm going to hold you guys accountable, and I'm going to discipline you when you're wrong, but I'm going to love you up when you do something great. Right. So I became that guy. I became, at one point, the dang on principal of the school during COVID when, things were happening and our principal wasn't able to show up. I had to step up. Right. And so they saw something in me, a father figure that was more transformational than it was transactional. And so once I started doing things like that, the kids, the buy-in at the school, obviously for the population was great, but for the football players was even greater because they was ultimately, they're like, man, that's my coach right there. And they could say that with pride about every single situation I handle. And so I thought that was very important for me because they needed to see me as a man deal with adversity because that's who's going to show up on 3rd and 8, a man that knows how to deal with adversity. So I figured if I could show them who I am every single day in tough situations, when I ask them to do something tough, it'll be pretty dang on easy. So again, it's just all about just learning the kids' love language, just trying to find out who that kid is, what they're about, and how you can help them not be where you want them to be, but where they want to go. So you got to meet them where they're at first to get them up that steep ladder.
He is Corey Parker, defensive backs coach at Illinois. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com here on the Our Coaching Network podcast, one of the top young defensive coaches in all of college football. And I say young, and you are young, but you also had 15, 16 years of high school experience before transitioning into college. You won a lot of state championships. You had tremendous success. You molded a lot of young men. You said moments ago, probably sent 200 kids to school from your time running the River Rouge program that became a dynasty. I wonder now, before we talk about your college coaching journey, how much do you hear from some of those former high school players that you had that are now in their early 30s at this point in time that are probably husbands and fathers and people giving back to society? Do you have a couple of those anecdotes that you can share with us today and maybe just talk about how much that still resonates with why you do what you do today?
Well, I still talk to, I call them my babies. These are my kids, you know what I mean? And so their parents hand them off to me at the age of 14 if they come to me in high school, or some of them started middle school inside of our school district, right? So I know them as early as dang going 11, 12, right? Some of them end up playing inside of my little league organization down in River Rouge. So I'll get to meet them as early as 8 years old, right? So my football field became like a playscape. I would just lock the gate. You know what I mean? Barbecue some hot dogs, Gatorades, waters, all of that stuff for the kids. But it was the place to be because ultimately you weren't in the streets when you was with me, right? And so those kids love me and appreciate me for that. So now I go to a lot of weddings, right? I'm on the phone a whole lot when guys are in the car with their wife on the way to the hospital to have their first baby, right? And so I deal with a lot of things, even from that to like the special moments where Ruko Rororo, who started at defensive tackle at Dango and Clemson over the past 3 years, when he's having his draft party and he's like, Coach, you got to make sure you're here. It's going to be this date at this time. I think I got a shot to get picked early. And then the Atlanta Falcons pick him up, pick number, I think 35 last year in the 2nd round. Right. But then you got to zoom from there and you got to get to Kamal Hatton's party because he's got a chance to get picked and the Kansas City Chiefs picks him up. But you see how those guys go from the up to the down, or the Kansas City Chiefs end up letting him go. But I'm the first call that he makes when it happens. So he's like, how do I deal with this, Pops? Like, what do I do next? And before you know it, boom, the Green Bay Packers pick him up. So from everything from the dad stories to the dang on husband stories to the football stuff that's still current for a lot of them, I got to be there for it all. Right. And I love that. I love the relationship that we have because no matter what, to them, I'm Pops. I'm either the father figure that they have and they identify with, or I'm a second dad that's supporting the dad that they have that hasn't dealt with the football world and doesn't know what it looks like or feel like to do some of the stuff that we got to do. So I've dealt with a lot of different things, and I've loved the fact that God has put me in this situation to do it the way that I do it because I wouldn't see it doing it any other way.
Incredible answer there. This whole podcast, 20 minutes deep now at this point, has been nothing but your energy. I'm trying to be as invisible as possible. Again, Coach Corey Parker from Illinois, John Brice here from Football Scoop on the Our Coaching Network podcast. Okay, I already told you I wanted to ask you about this, but you transitioned between 21 and 22 from that River Rouge dynasty that you had into FBS college football coaching at Toledo. How did that transition come about for you?
It was hard. Wow. Because I'm a guy that once again, I believe in being great where my feet are at. I wasn't like thinking about college football. Was it a dream? Yes. Yes. I always dreamed of going back to Eastern Michigan and coaching at my alma mater, right? I always dreamed of that. Like, who doesn't, right? And so I was dreaming, but I was still just working. I was focused on helping the players get in school. I was speaking at coaching clinics all over the country. I was just doing my thing, trying to get better. And lo and behold, Coach Kando from Toledo comes in my office, and he's doing it. He's doing his job. He's coming in and he's recruiting. And one of the things that we talked about was, what is that you're teaching? So I've never had a 4-star or 5-star in my life. I've only had 3-star guys or below. Like, the majority of the guys on my team were NAI or Division II level players that now have their degrees, and now these guys are dang on state troopers, police officers, teachers, coaches. A couple of them are nurses and in the medical field, and so when you got guys like that, you don't really get a question much from college coaches about what are you doing to put these guys out there. Well, it just so happened that I had put a string of guys into Group of 5 that were having success in becoming all conference. And so Coach Kando is like, what is that you're teaching? So I get on my dry race board and I'm teaching my stuff. And he's, I got a defensive backs opening. Would you be interested? And it was like an eye opener. Now, what I do know is in the past, I had job opportunities that had popped up. And I said no, because I didn't know how hard it was to get these jobs. I had a job and I was enjoying what I was doing. Right. And I also I had a wife that was either A, always pregnant, or B, she was trying to get her career off the ground too, and what she does. And so it's just, when Coach Kando says that, I'm like, give me 1 second, coach. I sprint upstairs to her office because she was working in the school too as the college admission coordinator. Yeah, so I sprint upstairs to her office and I'm like, hey, Toledo's in the office right now, and they just I think the defensive back's job is going to be there for us. Like, what do you think? And so I'm thinking she's going to say no, because she said no so many times. Because like I said, either she's pregnant or just we got a crawling baby at home, or it's always been something. And she says, you know what? Let's just go see. I looked at her, man. I sprinted back down the hall, ran down those stairs. I think I leaped one boulder up dang on stairs. Yeah. Went to Coach went to the office and was like, when do you guys want to talk? And so he said, well, that was like a Wednesday. If you want to come up on Friday, that would be great. And we just so happened to end up having like a day out of school that day. So it was perfect. I didn't have to miss any school time or miss the kids. So I went and talked ball. Like 10 minutes into the conversation, the D coordinator, Coach Karras, good friend of mine now, Coach Ross, they're like, are you going to say yes? Like, what's up? And that was it. And so the hardest thing for me was the drive home, because now reality hit. Right. How am I going to tell this to these kids that love me and look at me as like dad? Right. So that was the hardest thing I ever did. So the next morning I go into that meeting. I'm having a meeting, and the way this meeting goes will depend upon whether I'm going to take this job or not. And so I stand up in a meeting and I'm quivering, I'm crying. The kids are crying because they've already heard some things. Right. Like one of the writers from Toledo had posted something on Twitter, like there's a possibility Coach Parker from River Rouge may be taking the DB job at Illinois. So I'm in this meeting. I'm like, how this goes is going to depend upon whether I'm going to stay here or not. If these kids don't take this well, I'm going to say no, right? And so that's crazy, but that's just how I'm wired, right? And so I'm saying what I'm saying to the kids, and I'm like, I've been offered a job. And so Nick Marsh, dang on freshman, he's 18 years old, stands up and he says, excuse me, coach, excuse me, seniors, if y'all don't mind me speaking, Pops, you got to leave. And so the whole room froze and went silent. He says, you've been sacrificing for all of us forever. You got to go. We going to be all right. Coach Petway and the staff will take over. Mm-hmm. They going to still make sure we get in school. They going to stay on our grades. We just want to know if you can come to the state playoff games and still recruit us. What? At that moment, tears really start rolling, because I knew I transformed that place where they were able to say, we don't need you. We're not dependent upon you. And as men, I'm trying to build them to become men. That's what this is all about. Right. And so that's how that transition happened. So I ended up leaving out that meeting. I called Coach Kando and I said, hey, let's get some paperwork signed and let's go, coach. Let me come and help you. And so from there, got to that place and just did the best thing I could. I didn't know much about Exos. I wasn't good at it. I'm elite at dang on huddle. You know what I mean? I'm a high school coach. Like, so I had to figure out the video systems and understand the differences in the two and just do the best I could with those pieces. But ultimately being a relationship-based guy, spending time with Chris McDonald, spending time with Quinyon Mitchell, spending time with all the DBs that was in the room and just showing them, hey, like, this is who I am and this is what I plan on bringing to you guys. But I'm not going to come here and change your jump shot. I'm just going to add a left hand to your game. You know what I mean? I just want to add some extra things to your game and try and help you develop to become the best version of you. Right. And so got there and just hit the ground running of doing those things and just trying to make that place the best that we could. And obviously that year ended up winning dang on MAC championship. So really, really good time there with those guys and those players. It was completely awesome.
You referenced Jason Candle, obviously an incredibly successful head coach. Vic Karras, one of the best DCs out there. He's going to be a head coach sooner rather than later. A couple of mentors that you've had once you've transitioned to the college game. Another guy you're close friends with, a guy that I know pretty well, Mike Mickens, said we were going to talk about this. How has that relationship grown and evolved? Take us to the origin story of that, and what are some of the things you're able to do to pick the brain of Mike Mickens, who obviously is one of the best evaluators and secondary coaches like yourself anywhere in college football. The guy is absolutely elite.
Yeah. So obviously Coach Candle and Coach Karras, they poured so much into me and they're still pouring into me. Like I still talk and text with those guys as if I'm still on staff with them. Love those guys to death because they took a shot on ultimately a high school coach. Right. And that could have went bad. You know what I mean? And so I love those guys because they were able to teach me and continuously make sure I was empowered to do the best job that I could with my skill set. And so I love those guys to death. And I do agree, Coach Karras is going to be a heck of a dang on head coach, just like his dad was, and probably even better. You know what I mean? Let them tell it, right? And Coach Candle is a G, man. That's a G right there. You know what I mean? In my hood, we just call him a G. You know what I mean? He just has it. He has the swagger. He has the skill set, the knowledge, the base, but ultimately the relationship with his players too. That's why those guys play so hard for him, right? Now everybody asks, well, why Coach Candle at Toledo? Why? Because he loves that place and he loves those players. He loves those people, right? So just two excellent dudes right there. As far as Mickens, right? Met him long ago when he was a DB coach at Bowling Green, and lo and behold, come to find out we played against each other. So that's why the relationship was even more authentic. My senior year at Eastern Michigan, I'm the team captain. We go in week 1 to play against Cincinnati. And so that was Mickens' team. And so just putting ideas and talking about that game, reminiscing a little bit. But at this time, he's the DB coach at Bowling Green. And we're talking about this right before we're about to go on the field and do a 7-on-7 there that we end up winning the championship with that 7-on-7. But yeah, so built a great relationship with him just through recruiting. And ultimately now this like through family, like that's bro. Like I can call him or text him anytime about whether it's technique, family, like understanding, like all of this stuff, the climate, contracts, like just I can always go over different ideas and throw things at him because he's been in this industry for so long and he's been so good, but he's been himself the entire time. And that means like the world to me. Men that are able to stay themselves is through everything, through the financial changes, through the coaching changes, through the moves with your family. And I need to see guys like that because I want to continuously be that guy, right? And so he's amazing. He's amazing. Like I said, I can call him right now. He'll pick up and answer. I mean, who really has the time for that in our industry? But that's the type of person that he is, and so love him for that. And so yeah, always sharing ideas with him, and anytime I can go and see him is always good because he's always got a pretty good idea technically of new stuff and things to do with DBs and things like that. So pretty amazing guy, pretty amazing coach, a great person.
Yeah, well, don't shortchange yourself there. The authenticity, that's a hallmark characteristic of both you, Corey Parker and Mike Mickens. Again, Corey Parker, defensive backs coach, Illinois. All right, we're wrapping it up here near the end. You spent 2 years at Toledo. You helped them win a conference championship. Bam, you go to Illinois before the 24 season. You guys have one of your best seasons in decades, 10-win team. You win your bowl game against South Carolina. How did the Toledo to Illinois transition occur? And how much do you feel like maybe you guys are starting to wake up a sleeping giant at Illinois under Brett Bielema?
Well, one thing in our program we speak very, very highly of is speak for yourself. You know what I mean? And so I don't know how the situation transpired as far as how they identified me. But one thing that I can say is Brett Bielema is a fantastic evaluator of talent in the world of coaching and talent on the football field. So he has his ways, right? And he has his relationships and his connections to figure out who guys is. And I can speak to that because I was blessed to get a call. Like when he first called me, I looked at my phone like, yeah, right. Like this can't be. Had his number in the phone just because I had heard him speak at a clinic before, right? And
Okay.
so I was just blown away. Like, so this is Brett Bielema. Hey, so just great conversation with him as far as the position was open. They had defensive backs position that was open, and I didn't know anyone else on the staff really. So it wasn't anything I was lobbying for. I was in Miami recruiting for Toledo. So I literally was at work. And so
Right.
he called me and asked me to come up. And my faith and but ultimately my loyalty left me in a space where when the call came in, I called Coach Candle and I told Coach Bielema that I'm here in Miami recruiting for Toledo right now. I'm at work, so I can't come up there tomorrow. I need to
Right.
finish what I'm doing here, just respectively, because I respect and love those guys that I work for. And that was
Right.
hard because I could have lost that opportunity in that moment of time. Right. And so I just had to maintain my faith and pray that, if it's meant to be, they'll give me the patience to finish this job here and I can fly out on Friday instead of flying out on, let's say, Wednesday. Right. Because I don't think it's good for a coach. And I didn't think it was good for a coach to leave another coach just in a situation where he sent me out on the road and now I'm doing something else other than identifying guys and trying to help them, win another
Right.
dang on conference championship at Toledo. So once the call came and I made the call to Coach Candu and he was awesome about it, right? And I made the call to my wife. I ended up getting here, and it just so happened that I missed my flight. I missed my flight to get to get out here, just through not me, but it was like it was a plane difficulty. They couldn't
Right.
fly out. So we didn't leave out until like 10:30 at night instead of leaving at like 5:15 that Friday. And so I got here at like 2:30-ish a.m. So the car service, everything that Illinois possibly had for me was over. So I had to figure it out. And I didn't have a lot of money to like rent a car. Like you
Right.
got rent a car in O'Hare is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So like I somehow was able to muster up a couple of dollars and got a favor by the guy at Avis and like got a car and drove, 2 hours straight to be here. And I got here at about, I think it was like 4:50 a.m. Right. And at this point, I still hadn't slept. Remember, I got the call. I
Yeah.
recruited those days. I got to the airport at about 1 p.m. The flight was supposed to leave at 3. It didn't leave until 10. So I hadn't slept. So I literally got here to the airport. I got the rental by love and grace of God. Drove here, got here at 4:50. I'm supposed to meet with Coach Aaron Henry, our defensive coordinator, at like 5 a.m. So I had enough time to like change my polo. Like, so I literally ran inside of the hotel. I checked in. They had that was a room set up for me. I checked in. I literally took off my Toledo polo and I had just a basic like blue and white shirt that I put on. And it was time for me to like get my mind right and go. Right. And so I had to take the mindset of a football player and just say, let's go. Whatever happens, happens. Right. I had no rest on my eyes, but I had God. Right. And I had ultimately who I was. It was no nothing to get ready for this. It was just go time. Right. And so I went in there and met Coach Henry, spent time with him. And obviously we're two like-minded folks, man, and very energetic, very transparent, elite ball coach, right? And to have the opportunity to coach under a guy that had just put Devin Witherspoon, the number one DB in the draft, in the draft before Quinyon, I'm like, if I can pair up with this guy, we'll have the last two DBs picked as the first DB picked in the draft is him and then myself. So like being around that type of elite success, I was like drawn to it. I was like, I want to get better. And everybody talks iron sharpens iron. I want to sharpen my tools around a dude like this, right? And so got here and just I let it all hang out. I let it all hang out. I talked about everything that I could to let them know, to let Coach Bielema know, to let Coach Henry know that I wanted to be here, right? And I was going to do everything I could to win this job versus the other candidates, whoever they were. And so right after that, the craziest part was I couldn't stay overnight and continuously like be here because my 5-year-old daughter, her preschool graduation was that day in Toledo, Ohio. So I had to literally, I got done talking with them at about, I don't know, had to be like dang on 1 p.m. I got on the road, still no sleep on my eyes, and drove straight to Toledo, Ohio, 4 hours straight to get to her dang on graduation. You know what I mean? And it was just calling my baby up on the stage. Like it was, that's nothing but God, bro. Nothing but God. Like anything could have happened. There's nothing but God. It worked out that way. All she saw was dad running down the dang on middle of that dang on aisle. And she saw me and her face lit up, biggest smile ever, because she knew no matter what, I was going to be there. I could not let her down. Right. And like I say, my faith, my family, and then it's football. So being there for her in that moment, but still no sleep, you would think that your wife would say, come on, babe, let's go home, get you some rest. What she said? Let's go to Red Lobster and go have dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing?
No,
so no,
but that's a lifetime memory, though. That's a lifetime memory for your whole family. That's
yes.
incredible. All right. We are winding it down here with Coach Corey Parker from Illinois. John Brice here, Football Scoop on the Our Coaching Network podcast. All right. We've discussed your high school run, then a couple of years at Toledo, a year now under your belt at Illinois, going into year 2. You've been part of a conference championship at Toledo. You've helped Illinois win 10 games for the first time in a really long time, beating an SEC team in South Carolina in the postseason. But you already slipped up and told me you're friends with my colleague, Doug Samuel, who also, in addition to being the spine at Football Scoop, is a high school head coach in Michigan. So now for some fun, Corey, I want you to give me a scouting report on a Doug Samuels coached Comstock Park team or any other school that you've seen him with there in Michigan, because he does some pretty elite things as well.
Oh yeah, he's an offensive guy. He's a RPOG. You know what I mean? Like he was coming in and talking with me, you know, and we were talking about, you know, RPO and pulling the ball, you know, and throwing, you know, the stick concept, but attached to a dang on power, a blocking scheme going the opposite way. We were talking about this in like 2016 or 2015 or something. You know what I mean? And so like this guy, he has a very, very intriguing eye for the game. And he does some really fun stuff every place he's at to try and give his team the competitive edge. He also does a fantastic job of identifying coaching talent. Like this guy's able to get guys on his staff that were college coaches. You know what I mean? Because he just does such a fantastic job of just what they do and how they go about it. So yeah, he's an RPOG. He's gonna try and hit you in the mouth, but he's giving his quarterback the opportunity to pull the ball and run it, or pull the ball and dink you where you left from. So Doug is my dude, man. I got a lot of respect for the way he goes about coaching his teams and going about his business. And ultimately, he's a family man just like I am. So he posts tons of stuff about him and his wife. They're out on this date. They're doing this, or he'll post stuff about, you know, him and the baby. So great dude, man. That's a good friend of mine right there.
That's awesome. I didn't tell him you were going to be on our show today, but I can't wait to share this clip with him. All right, last thing, and you've been just one of the most energetic interviews we've ever had. You've been transparent. You've been authentic. So now this is your chance. I feel like we know almost everything about you, but there has to be a hidden skill, a hidden talent. What do we not know about Coach Corey Parker that we need to know here today before we wrap up this latest edition of the Our Coaching Network podcast?
Man, I have zero talent
No way.
At being a mind reader.
Okay.
I have no talent. I'm the worst in the nation at it.
Okay.
So that's why I talk so much, because I try and be an elite communicator.
Okay.
I try to like talk to people at every level, whether they're the smallest guy or the biggest guy. So I got a good understanding of who they are, you know, and how I can help them. And ultimately, I try and talk so they got an idea of who I am and how I can service them, right? I can't read people's minds, though, right? I don't know what they're thinking about me until I maybe can communicate with them and get them to say something back, right? I think I have an elite level skill of communicating. And that's something that everybody's always still trying to grow in, because communication now is through text. Communication now is through email. Communication now is also over the phone. So it's so many different mediums of it. It makes it so interesting that I got to be good at all levels of it. Right. And so I try and be great at that piece, because ultimately I think that is also attached to your effort. The effort you put into communicating with others is a direct reflection of how much you really care. Right. And I look at myself as a high care guy. So I want to always make sure I put that out in the forefront. If I'm ever talking too much, cut your ears off. Because as long as the Lord bless me with the opportunity to breathe, I got something to say. Right. Because there's a lot of people that wish they could talk and they can't. They can't. Right. So that's me 100% of the time, man. Just trying to give everything I got to everybody that I can, and communicate and meet everybody that I can, and spend the time that I can with people, so that they know who I am, they know what I'm about. But ultimately, when I speak and I meet people, I get a chance to learn who they are and communicate with them as authentic as I can.
Coach Corey Parker, the Illinois defensive backs coach, elite communicator, elite evaluator, elite mentor, and elite teacher. Know the name. You're knowing it now in college football. Like we said, conference championship at Toledo, a 10-win season at Illinois. That's what he's helped accomplish in just 3 years coaching. This has been an elite podcast. Corey, thanks for your time today. Thanks for joining us on the Our Coaching Network podcast.
This has been great, man. Thanks, John. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you guys. Anything I can ever do, everyone to talk any ball, let's go. Like, this is my meat and potatoes, man. I love doing this. I love meeting, visiting, talking, because this is how I cut my teeth in the game of coaching. Like, meeting, visiting, talking. But ultimately, this is how I get better. This is how I grow. So any way I can ever help you guys, man, let me know, bro.
You set a new standard for me of energy that I'm going to have to start bringing on this podcast. You've set a new standard of energy for the guests moving forward. Again, he's Corey Parker. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com. This has been the latest Our Coaching Network podcast.